Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Career Hive. This is podcast number 8. So, wow, first of all, 8. Hope you're enjoying it as much as I am, as much as the team are enjoying putting these together. So, yeah, quick update, as we always do. Pretty much another exciting and busy week at Future Match. We are close to completing the remaining aspects of our SCIS pre-seed funding round. So we're in full DD model. We've had some really exciting approaches from organizations who are looking to kind of drive and deliver on their early careers targets and outcomes. So that's been really exciting to have meetings around how we as an organization can support that. In terms of, we want to also say good luck to all the GCSE and A-level students who are in the middle of and beginning of their exams. I know it's half term next week, so there's hopefully a little bit of a break to top up that revision, to take a breath and kind of realize, well, okay, I know what I had to do, I know what the experience is like, and what does it look like next? Because in reality, I was just having a real kind of think about this and talking to people that I know who are currently undertaking the A-levels. And this year's cohort of A-level students did not and have not sat proper formal exams. So, this is the first cohort as we sort of start to repair ourselves from the back of what happened with the pandemic. This group are the first one. So, that whole thought of going into examination, into the school hall, the warnings around, copying and all that type of stuff. And that whole pressure, when you look across to your left and you look across to your right and you see your mate and, it's that tension that everyone has. So listen, good luck. You put the work in. Believe me, I have no doubt that you would be getting those results as well. So yeah, there we go. So it's been really exciting on that front. So what are we focusing on this week? So we were hoping to get a couple of students in, but they're busy right now, which is fairly understandable. So this week we thought we'd switch around. I thought we'll focus on the early career space from a company perspective. So as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, that we're talking to some really exciting organizations who are looking at their ambitions around what they do now and early careers, and so I thought it'd be really a good chance to kind of have a conversation. So let's kind of paint the picture, right? We know from a lot of the data out there that the under 25s were the most and have been the most impacted group by the pandemic. So that's regardless whether organizations have kind of changed how and what they're doing in regards to their early careers recruitment strategies or graduate programs, work experience, apprenticeship programs, etc. Everything sort of taken a swap. And then you look at organizations as well. At the beginning of that midst, we're kind of thinking, okay, what are we going to do? And also, I think it's also important to kind of just highlight this. If you listen to all the underlying data, we're coming out of a bull market, we're going into a bear market, and so that's what the experts are saying. And therefore, there's a talk of the potential downturn, etc. So, I feel like there's going to be a lot of, kind of pressure, but I thought let's kind of talk about it. But the good news is this, right? Is that the number, if you look at the graduate market, right? So the number of vacancies is now 20% higher than in 2019. So that's before COVID came into play. With the sectors of the biggest growth being the built environment, so construction, architecture, engineering, etc., at 48% growth. Energy, engineering, and industry, as they call it, 41%. Health and pharma, 37%. So that's really good, right? That's showing the stats there that we really are kind of turning the corner. School leaver jobs in retail, FMCG have increased by 55% since last year. So that's really exciting, and that kind of gives us an idea. I think apprenticeship starts have increased by 43% in the first quarter of 2021-22. So again, and that's big with massive professional service and legal reporting growth. Engineering, retail, tech, and sales are kind of more challenging, but I don't think that's anything to do with the actual desire by companies, but I think it's more to do, especially on the apprenticeship side, it's more around that awareness of, okay, what is it that apprenticeship looks like for us, and are the apprenticeship programs out there relevant to the skill needs that we want? But that's a whole different conversation, and I think it's something that we'll probably touch on. So when you look at the marketplaces, let's look at where we were in COVID and the impact it's had on that kind of under 25s group. Look at the positive feedback coming back and news coming out. And let's be realistic around the fact that whatever happens right now, I think that even with the potential bear market and the challenges we're going to face in terms of the marketplace, I'm still optimistic that the early career space is going to be one which is still going to continue to go strength from strength. And the reason being is organizations that we're talking to, there's a clear need to to upskill, right? They need certain skills to facilitate what they're going to do as a business going forward. So I think it's going to be a huge kind of opportunity to do something pretty special. So with all this positiveness in the marketplace and everything happening and all that type of stuff, what does it actually mean for organizations? So I think in the conversations we're having with the organizations that we're talking to and just kind of listening to what they're saying, I think some of the biggest challenges that we've kind of looked at just from these sort of basic conversations and doing our own little research is the quality of candidates. So yes, it's great that we've got this high volume of opportunities, and yes, there's vacancies, and yes, it becomes a kind of a candidate-driven market, if you want to put it that way, because we're there, the opportunities are there, we can drive it, we can pick it. But actually, what's happening is the quality of candidates is dropping. So that's really a big thing for organizations. I think looking at some of the data, we're talking about 54% of organizations are reporting that this is a challenge. Diversity, and how do companies achieve their targets? How do they really truly bring that diversity into their organization? And yes, I mean, we are talking about it from a gender specific aspect of it, from ethnicity, and in terms of that comes into play. But I also think there's a diversity of mindset as well, because that's what those two groups kind of bring into play as well. So I think there's a big challenge, and I think looking at the stats and looking at organizations you're talking to, you're looking at about 69 to 70% of organizations who've identified this. I think employer brand has actually been interesting because, organizations are kind of recognizing that when you're in a candidate-driven market, you've got to make sure that your employer brand is really strong. But I don't even think that that's the main driver as well. I think the actual driver is that when you look at the generations coming into the workplace now, they are really kind of, how can I put it, brand conscious. So for them, being part of an organization that really lives its values and kind of breathes those values as well is a big thing for them. And I think when we talk to early career talent and we're engaging with them, this is something they're looking to do. So I think for organizations identifying that's really important, because all those type of things, the funny thing is, I was saying in a meeting today in the week with an organization, when you look at the entire talent acquisition process, the recruitment process in old money, every aspect of what you do is directly linked to an aspect of your organization. So the quality of your candidates comes down to your attraction strategy, right? So are we actually going out there and engaging with the candidates that are relevant or can really bring something to us? But also, are those candidates applying to the roles that we're looking for? And guess what? Is our brand strong enough, right? Does our brand represent what we do? Are we seen as a diverse employer? All those type of things linking into that. So, it's quite a big thing. And like we were talking about it, we're doing something quite interesting in the organization. And I talked about the fact that, Future Match or any kind of organization you're working with, it's about joining the dots, right? How do I connect the dots? How do I join the dots? Because if I can get those dots connected and joined up, then I'm going to have a more successful process in place. So we talked about that. So that's for organizations that we're talking to, that quality of candidates, the diversity numbers and how to hit those, and the employer brand. So we kind of talk about that. I think I've kind of, in a way, got into it a little bit, where I've talked about the fact that, how can organizations do that by joining and connecting those dots. So, candidate quality, this is a big thing, right? Because how can I put it? I think this is not just, and I know I've spoken a little bit about this, but this is a little bit wider than just what you're doing in application strategy. The challenge the organizations have, and we're trying to say this, and we're trying to develop a really exciting concept that's going to enable us to tap into the untapped talent pool, is that how far are organizations going in their attraction strategy. So you really got to get into those schools, you got to get into colleges, you got to get into universities at a much more deeper level, right? So it's about how do we engage with this talent a lot sooner, and before we even kind of thinking, right, we need to bring these individuals on board. Because again, candidate quality. When I told this organization, I'm saying, what is it about candidate quality that you're kind of looking at and going, we're not happy with? The first thing is it's that whole, okay, where are they with their soft skills? Where are they in the expectation around that? So we understand that, and there's a big part for us to play that. Then there's the kind of, when I told someone sort of said to me, an HR director said to me, they don't seem interested in our career, in our organization, in our sector for them, if this is just, look, I need to get a job. And I thought that was quite interesting, because that's something I've always said, let's get people interested, understanding what a career means, involved in what it means, what does that look like for me, and you suddenly find that the interest level is changing, therefore the quality of candidates that go by. Because what happens, I'm applying for a role in a sector that I'm really interested in. I'm going to a company that really excites me. So therefore, it's natural, right, that I bring my A game to the table there. So I think, there's a lot of work to do. So I say to organizations, look, the candidate quality is about what you do internally to drive those external factors, and what you do externally to enable yourself to be in the right position for when that talent kind of comes into play. So that's a key part. Other aspects I talked about, is like, we talked about how you design your outreach strategy. How is the process undertaken? Sometimes is your process kind of open to everybody from different backgrounds? So the language that you're using, the recruitment process that you're using, all these things can be barriers, and those barriers mean that the quality of candidates that you get coming through are not at the level you want to do. I also said this to organizations is, we've got to move to a hire for potential, not experience. And I think that's really, really important as well, because when I'm talking to some organizations, they're like, okay, so you're talking about, you're going, all right, the quality of our candidates isn't where we want it to be. And then you say, but what is it you're looking for? And I say, I'm looking for someone who's got a little bit of work experience, right? A little bit of something they've done, a little. And you're kind of going, well, look, that's really hard to kind of get into play, because at this moment in time, they probably haven't had a chance to do work experience, because work experience and internships and all that type of stuff in schools is pretty much non-existent or relevant to give that kind of work experience. Secondly, we're just coming out of a pandemic, man. So it's really hard to have that. And then secondly, okay, I have work experience. I then start to look at the fact that actually what you start to go is, well, is that work experience relevant to what I'm doing? So let's look at that. How do we start to hire for potential? And potential is a big thing, right? And we know that potential is what we invest as a business, how we develop our talent, how we understand what we're looking for, how we look at the future of what that looks like, so we can match that with the needs of what we business and what we need. I've also come across something which is still the case, right? And it still boggles me. But let's look for skills, not schools, right? So there's a lot of young people that I know who are, I believe, will be some of the best engineers in the world, right? Academically, if you ask them to do a history paper, if you ask them to do geography, English language, they struggle with that. But when you look at what they do from a DT perspective, when you look at what they do in computer science and all that type of stuff, you suddenly see that they've got something. They've got that natural skill. So how we as organizations tapping into that, right? How is organizations looking to kind of look at that skill set? Because that skill set, that ability to just get it, plays a big, big part, right? And again, we go back to that factor that, it's competency, not curriculum, So again, it's trying to match all those type of things together. And I know it's really hard because, as I said, we're a Future Match. I personally have sat on both sides of the table, right? I've been on the side of the table where, as an organization looking to bring early career talent into their company, and I've sat as that early careers talent trying to get into an organization. And when you look at those type of organizations, you see the challenge. And I've also worked on the peripheral, whereby, like we're doing a Future Match, supporting and enabling organizations to access that talent, and we kind of see that talent. Then we talk about diversity, right? Again, I think there's some really exciting opportunities to look at how you word your job brief, how you do your person spec, because there's languages that can be used, right? There's terminologies that are used which can be more kind of driven towards a male-dominated kind of environment. They're off-putting to females, So we've got to look at how that looks. And I know that it's a complex aspect of what we're looking at from diversity. But how do we create this kind of access to that diversity pool? I think it's what areas are you accessing? Look at your kind of strategy when you're going out there to attract that talent into your organization. Are you going to the same universities? Are you going in the same demographic areas? And what is your outreach strategy out of the normal areas that you cover? And when you're approaching this, right, this is no quick fix, right? So the amount of organizations that we've kind of engaged with, and this is whether it's with Future Match or whether we're into admission, is that they kind of go, oh yeah, I tried to talk to schools, and we tried to target this group, and we tried to do this, and we tried to do that, and it didn't work. And you kind of go, but how long did you do it for? What's it? Yeah. And so all of a sudden you start to look at it, because everyone's kind of trying to scratch their head to think about who did it and what they did exactly do. and that's not going to deliver the results. We know that, right? We don't. There's not a single part of our business where we got to even. Let's look at sales, my favorite subject, right? Just because you had a no from one organization, you don't stop, right? You keep on going. You keep on making the calls. You keep on, changing your messaging, trying different things, looking at your data, reviewing what we're doing. Organizations don't seem to do that sometimes. I think sometimes they get stuck in that whole kind of thing. We try this and we'll fall back and resort back to normal. Because to drive this factor, right, to drive diversity in your business across the board is going to take you time. It's going to take effort, and it's definitely going to take hard work, right? Because you need to, as I said to this organization today, in the week, it's about learning, right? Every time we do something, we learn. Every time we learn, we improve. And that's how we kind of look at this, in the platform that we're building and how we're supporting organizations. That every single time, every interaction, we're learning, right? We're using that learning to improve. We're using that learning to become better at what we do and to look at what we're developing. So there we go. We talked about your campaigns and how you're communicating, are you hitting the target group. So I think from a diversity perspective, it's clearly factored. And have that 5-year plan, right? Have a look at what it looks like. And sometimes by setting out your plan, look at your recruitment data. So if we look at the last 12 months, last 2 years, last 3 years, what's our data look like? So it's no use saying we're going to increase our women in our engineering apprenticeship program, girls in apprenticeship program by 25%, when in reality of the applications over the last 3 years, you've only been getting 1%, because that shows that there's a disparity between what you want to achieve and what you want to do. However, what will be successful is how do we align those a lot closer so that we have a realistic steps change. So we as a company can see progress, and then that enthusiasm that I talked about, that willingness, that desire keeps on kind of moving forward. Employer brand, listen, I think that's a really, really important piece, right? It links into everything you do. I think there's a real exciting opportunity to build something around this. And organizations that focus on their employer brand, link it to the brand that they sell to their customers and everything else like that, are going to be really successful, because the talent that we're talking about want to be aligned to organizations. They share their common values, they have a shared common direction, but most importantly, have a strong brand in the marketplace, right? And so you talk about quality of candidates, that's the big difference. There's the little margins that we talk about. Strong employer brand, you're more likely to get higher volume of quality candidates because the desire to work in those places is up there. And I'm not saying, in maybe case of some of the quality of candidates is because we need to get your employer brand piece as high as you want it to be. So I always say to organizations, it's really, really important to kind of, really kind of drive what does that look like. So I think another piece that we're kind of really talking to organizations around as well is, let's address the skills gaps, right? Let's look at what and where is your industry going for the next 3 to 5 years, right? Let's look at the key skills that are in play right now and how those are going to evolve. And then you start to kind of build a kind of a learning solution based on kind of addressing and developing and kind of closing those skills gaps, because that then drives into what the talent pool that you bring into play. So it's what we're doing internally, driven by where us as a sector going externally, and then we map it into our campaign, our process, and our plan going forward. So that's why I say to organizations. Other aspects I think for organizations to look at is, build a quality future pipeline. This is so important right now. How many times do you go out there and keep on doing the same thing all the time, etc.? Who are you tracking? Because someone who's a 19-year-old today is tomorrow's 21-year-old, 22-year-old, 23-year-old, etc. So let's start to kind of build that quality pipeline, work with that, engage with that pipeline a lot, so we go back to the employer brand piece. I think the most important thing is going to be around how we optimize experience and engagement. It was really fascinating, this conversation we're having, because we were talking to an organization and we were saying, look, they've really gone mad about automating the process, but some of the feedback that was coming back from the talent pool that we're dealing with in recruiting these roles was that the process was too tech, not enough human interaction, and therefore it's that fine balance. But it's about optimizing your experience, right? Make it quick and easy. Feedback, engage, talk, be visible for those that talent pool come into your process. Engage with them, talk to them, understand them. It's such an important thing. And personalize your approach. We talked about the challenges you have, the quality of candidates, the diversity numbers you want to hit. All those type of things come down to, is our strategy personalized to the group of talent we're looking to bring in? Because these are skills gap, this is ambition and the goals that we have as a business. So I think that's a really, really important part. So we're kind of giving you some advice. We kind of talked about these type of things. So listen, besides coming and talking to Future Match, of course, this is what we do, right? This is how we help organizations not just look at what they're doing, look at how they're doing it, but look at what they can do. But also, most importantly, we actually work with them to deliver the outcomes they want to achieve, right? And that's where our strength is. But let's go aside from that, and we talk about things that I say to all the organizations. Take a risk and be open-minded. Early careers is very much about that, about taking a risk and be open-minded. And what I mean by that is there's going to be talent out there that isn't going to be necessarily in your lane per se, what you normally recruit. Well, listen, be open-minded about that. Take a risk. Widen your talent pool. Yes, you might have to spend more time. Yes, you're going to have to therefore spend some money on that. But that is a risk you've got to take to build and achieve the outcomes you look outside. Think outside the box, right? Let's stop using the same traditional methods that we're using. What else can I do? How do I engage with candidates who have dropped out of university, are working in sectors they're not really interested in? How do I tap that talent pool? So again, that's where I think out of the box solutions come. But invest in your talent. So investing in your existing early careers talent drives the next talent, because guess what? They talk, right? Invest in your talent, show that you do that, then you start to see the results as well, because we're driving the employer brand, we're increasing the quality, because I think, wow, I'm joining organization A and I know that they invest in their talent, and I want to be very much part of that. And one thing I always say to organizations, don't wait for the best talent to find you, right? So, take the initiative, get out there, work out how you're going to tap into that best talent pool and bring that talent pool on board. So I think that's our podcast for this week, right? It's going to be nice, short and sweet. It's aimed at organizations. It's aimed at early career talent. I think, as I said at the beginning, we had a bit of a lull. I think there's a huge opportunities coming through. We're seeing the growth numbers across all the sectors. I think there's a better understanding of how the apprenticeship levy works, so therefore we're going to see that pushing. I think we've done all the upskilling we need to do, so now we need to new skill and use that. I think the graduate programs are becoming a lot smarter in what they do. I think early careers talent, some there deferred university are going to be coming on the market this year, may not want to go to uni now. So there's a real exciting opportunity for you as organizations to start to build that talent pool and get that future talent matched into your organization. So, I think it's really, really great. It's an exciting time to be. Please, as I said, follow us, Future Match, on our LinkedIn page. We're currently obviously rebranding, so we haven't got our Future Match website, but we've got www.mypam.tech still going as well. And any questions, anything you want to do, please reach out to the team. And until then, happy early careers recruiting. Thank you very much, everybody.